Hello and welcome to In the Court of the Wenton Knave. Today we are doing Studio 10. When Zappa left Warner Brothers, he dumped 4 albums on them at once because they wouldn't release a big awesome box set of leather. So whilst he was playing for his next album, filming a concert for a new film he was making called Baby Snakes, Warner Brothers dumped on the public the next album he'd sort of thrown at them on the unsuspecting public. Shockingly badly packaged. Apparently it had no recording information on it whatsoever and had an absolutely hideous cover. As far as Frank was concerned, it was very much they'll release it, but they want to hurt his career in any way they possibly can. I don't know if that's true or not. I suspect the cover is more creative misfortune than actually deliberately trying to hurt his career, and the no information possibly was because he didn't give them information when he dumped them on them. But yeah, so it was sort of dumped on the public, and it was all, remember, with the exception of the live tracks from Zappa in New York, everything on here was old material. So this was old material he'd not released before. So surely, that means it's not going to be very good, doesn't it? It's just going to be outtakes. Zappa being Zappa, of course. No, it doesn't. Regardless of the debacle of the whole situation, the contents of this is sublime. Some of the best stuff is on here. Only 4 tracks, but one of them is an extended piece, and they're all extended pieces, really, apart from one of them. The album opens with The Adventures of Greggery Peccary. Here it is, finally. Recorded and constructed over several years, originally written in 72. This is the follow-up to Billy the Mountain. So in a way, this is the companion album to Just Another Band from LA. However, it isn't like Just Another Band from LA because all the music's great on it, whereas with Just Another Band it's kind of bonus tracks with Billy the Mountain, which are good, but this is all sublime. So it isn't just about Greggery Peccary, but it follows a similar concept of being an extended narrative, sort of comedy narrative with lots of vocals. It is much more complex than Billy the Mountain, much less accessible than Billy the Mountain as well. There's very few actually repeating themes. There's a lot of music. It's 20 minutes long, but the amount of music in that 20 minutes is astonishing. It is not something you take lightly. When I'm first listening, it will blow your mind. I was, it's been on now, right, and it completely passed me by. It takes years to get into it because it's so heavy going. There is a repeating theme at the end, thankfully. We'll talk about that in a minute. The story to Greggery Peccary is, I think, it's actually more meaningful than Billy the Mountain. I think it's probably seen as by many as not. But I think it's okay. Peccary is a top pick, so the guy's a pig. He's a sort of fashion consultant. He works in a business who control fashion. But he invents the calendar. That's why he's called Greggery Peccary, Gregorian calendar. And that annoys people because it makes them realise how old they are and they're not infinitely young. So they chase him. But he hides in Billy the Mountain, I think. And then people chasing him have a party. And then all the stuff happens. But I think there is in there a critique of trendsetters and people like that, and record company executives. The comedy vocals, in a way echoing the very early stuff with the cartoon vocals, I suppose you could argue could detract from the music. You listen to one or the other. A lot of times when there's vocals going on, there's some amazing music going on in the background. This mostly features the Roxy Band. Because it was recorded over such a long time, there are different versions of it. I believe there was a version released in 75 on radio, which was a different performance. Now, my understanding was for a while that they recorded the orchestral parts of Greggery Peccary and the 75 orchestral concert, but having read around on that, I think it was actually 72 with the Wazoo Orchestra. So the orchestral parts are the Wazoo Orchestra, the band parts are played by a version of the Roxy Band, basically. There's so many different themes in there. There's a couple of references to Herbie Hancock, which is pretty cool. There's one section which really reminds me of ELP, but I haven't ever been able to put my finger on what it actually is. Kind of Carnival 9 type stuff. That's at around 3 minutes or so, I think. I'm not going to do a lot of musical analysis because that would take about 3 hours, but the closing finale uses a theme actually from Paul Calvin and his next 2 hitchhikers called New Brown Clouds, and is used as a big ending flourish. That's the relief at the end, really. At the end it kind of gets itself together into a more accessible fashion, but it still ends kind of suddenly. Incredible piece of music. Not something I'm going to delve into too much here. If you're a Zappa fan, it's something you should have on your list of to-dos before you die, is get into Greggery Peccary, because I love it. Brilliant. Next track, Let Me Take You to the Beach. This is the only track not by the Roxy Band. It's actually by a band I don't recognise. Davey Moore on vocals, don't know who that is. Eddie Johnson, so that puts it in context. The Eddie Johnson Band, but with Max Bennett on bass, Paul Humphrey on drums, Don Brewer on bongos. I don't know who any of those people are, so that's interesting. Obviously a transitional lineup. And it's interesting because it really harks back to the very early stuff where we're parodying kind of surf music, kind of doo-woppy, kind of R&B kind of stuff. Very typical of Money, Absolutely Free, Freak Out era. And it really contrasts how far we've got in the music, but it also makes the album flow brilliantly, which is an amazing achievement for 4 tracks. These songs work fantastically on leather, but they work great on here as well. Then we have revised music for guitar and low budget orchestra. If you've been following these videos, or you already know, Jean-Luc Ponty did an album of Zappa tracks called King Kong. It was music for violin and low budget orchestra because he couldn't get a big enough orchestra. He wanted like a 100-piece orchestra and ended up with 15 piece or something like that. This doesn't feature an orchestra, this is the Roxy Band playing a rearrangement of it, which is more electric. Always like this piece, it's quite extended, it's a relaxed piece, it doesn't have the frenetic intensity of like sort of Roxy tracks, but I really like it. Great piece of music. Fine. We have Redunzel. They were playing it at the time. Why it was not on there, I haven't a clue. We have Ruth Underwood on this. It starts with some syncopated stuff, some very familiar stuff. Great bit of guitar, some ninja hammers from Ruth. Everything you want really from that period. A great piece. Should have been on Roxy actually, instead of some of the weaker songs on, which ends a really great album with a really hideous cover. See you next time.